My mother was smiling, plate in hand, complimenting the roast. My father stood at the head of the table, glass raised mid-toast. My sister scrolled through her phone, disinterested as always. Then my daughter reached under the table and slipped me a folded note, just 5 words. Call 911, don't say why. She was pale, lips tight, breathing shallow. I didn't panic, I watched. Then I reached into my pocket, pressed the emergency shortcut on my phone, and slid it into my lap, connected, recording, silent. 17 minutes later, my parents were panicking, exactly as planned. People think evil comes loud, but in my family, it dressed in pearls and cardigans, smiled at church, hosted game nights, taught me to never talk back, especially not about bruises. They called it discipline. I called it fear. When I had my daughter, I swore she'd never flinch at the sound of footsteps in the hall. So when we moved in for just a few weeks after my divorce, I watched closely. She stayed quiet at first, too quiet. Her light dimmed. She flinched at my mother's voice, tensed every time my father entered the room. Then came the accidents, the burnt wrist, the missing school books, the sudden tears behind closed doors. When I asked, she shook her head. But last night changed everything. I told them we'd have a family dinner, a goodbye meal before we moved out, a thank you for their help. But I already had everything packed in the car. The moment I saw that note, I knew my instincts were right. I just needed proof. So I left the phone recording, lens peeking from my purse. Mic hot. I looked my daughter in the eye, nodded once. She knew. She stayed at the table. I excused myself to check the dessert. Instead, I slipped out the front door, walked down the block to the patrol car I'd requested before the dinner even started. 2 officers sat inside, listening through the live feed. Wait for my signal, I told them. Let them hang themselves. Inside, I returned to the table. My father was telling a story about his childhood. My mother laughed in all the right places. Then my sister chimed in with something cruel about my parenting, about how soft I'd become. My daughter barely moved. Her eyes stayed on her plate. Then my mother reached over and grabbed her arm, hard. "You hear me, young lady? You don't get to sulk. You're not special." My daughter winced. And just loud enough, I heard my father say, "She gets that tone again, we'll teach her the old way, just like we taught you." That was it. I stood, walked to the front door, and opened it. The officers entered like thunder in a cathedral. Confusion erupted. My mother screamed. My father cursed. My sister backed into the wall. My daughter didn't move. "Hands where we can see them," the officer said, calmly but firmly. "We have recordings, statements, and injuries. You'll all have a chance to talk at the station." They tried to lie, tried to blame me, said I was unstable, vindictive, bitter after the divorce. But my daughter's trembling voice on that recording, "Please don't leave me alone with them again," that was enough. In the interrogation room, the stories unraveled. Neighbors testified. My daughter's teacher shared emails. Medical records matched the bruises. They weren't just cruel, they were calculated. My mother thought breaking my daughter would make her stronger. My father thought fear was love. My sister, she just watched. Not anymore. I filed for a restraining order that same night, took my daughter to a hotel, held her close, promised it was over, and meant it. 3 weeks later, charges were filed: child endangerment, assault, neglect. They pled for reduced sentences, asked for forgiveness. But I'd spent years swallowing silence. This time, I made them choke on the truth. Now, we live in a small apartment across town. It's quiet, safe, ours. She laughs again, paints, sleeps through the night. Her light is coming back. And every time I see it, I remember that note under the table, and how 5 words saved us both. Final thought? Sometimes justice doesn't come with sirens. Sometimes it's planned, measured, unforgiving, and served 17 minutes after your parents raise a toast.